The 1970s. When recess meant kickball on cracked blacktops, lunch was packed in metal boxes, and school supplies had a certain charm. It wasn't just about pencils and paper. It was about the feel of back to school. The smell of freshly sharpened number 2 pencils, the creak of a new Trapper Keeper, and the sound of a zipper pencil case sliding open in homeroom. Today, we're flipping back through time and looking at 10 school supplies every 70s kid carried. Grab your corduroys and saddle shoes. We're going in. Peachy folders? Every desk had one. That mustard yellow folder with athletes printed in brown ink, running track, playing baseball, maybe wrestling. Peachy folders were more than just paper holders. They were doodle canvases. Kids drew moustaches on the runners, gave them speech bubbles, or scribbled crush names in the margins. They were cheap, durable, and lasted all year. Over time, flashier folders with cartoon characters took over, but nothing beat that classic manila color and those oddball sports figures. Big Chief tablets. Before spiral notebooks were everywhere, kids used Big Chief writing tablets. With their bright red covers and Native American Chief logo, they were a staple from first grade on up. Inside were thick, wide-ruled pages perfect for shaky cursive and spelling tests. The paper wasn't the best quality. It tore easily and smeared, but it had personality. Eventually, changing cultural views and newer notebook styles made the Big Chief fade into history. But for a while, every little hand practiced its loops and lines right there. The scented eraser collection. Not just one eraser, oh no. 70s kids carried collections. Banana, grape, root beer, even popcorn scented. They came in tins or little zip pouches, and no one really used them to erase anything. They were for sniffing, trading, and showing off. These erasers were like Pokemon cards of their time. But as teachers cracked down on distractions and trends changed, the scents faded, literally and figuratively. Metal lunchboxes with matching thermos. These weren't just for lunch, they were fashion statements. Whether it was The $6 Million Man, Charlie's Angels, or Star Wars, your lunchbox said everything about who you were. Inside, a glass-lined thermos kept soup warm or milk cold, though if you dropped it, that glass would shatter. By the 80s, plastic took over, and soon soft lunch bags ruled the cafeteria. But nothing beats the clang of a metal lunchbox closing before the bell. Trapper Keeper binders. Though they launched in the late 70s, by decade's end they were catching on like wildfire. With loud colors, Velcro flaps, and pocket folders that snapped in neatly, the Trapper Keeper was revolutionary. It made kids want to organize their papers, at least for a week or two. The sound of that Velcro opening? Iconic. They stuck around into the 80s and 90s, but eventually faded, as schools preferred simpler binders. Still, a Trapper Keeper was the Cadillac of folders. Pencil cases with sliding compartments. These were often plastic, imported from Japan, and filled with gadgets, pop-up pencil holders, mini sharpeners, and buttons that made things slide open like secret agent gear. Having one of these meant you were cool. You could store erasers, rulers, and maybe even a tiny mirror. Just don't let it fall apart before Halloween. They were flashy, sometimes fragile, and eventually replaced by simpler zippered pouches. But for a moment they felt like the future. Jumbo Crayola crayon box with sharpener. That 64-pack was the holy grail. If you had one with the built-in sharpener on the back, you were practically royalty. Each color had a name that made you dream: burnt sienna, cornflower, or raw umber. The waxy smell, the rainbow of options, the tiny bits of wrapper peeled off, pure magic. Eventually, schools started requiring basic 8 or 16 packs, and kids used computers more than coloring books. But that 64-pack, it made every kid feel like an artist. The Swingline Tot Stapler, it was tiny, bright red or blue, and fit perfectly in a pencil box. The Tot Stapler wasn't a necessity, it was a luxury. Kids loved using it to staple together comics they drew in class or organize class notes like grown-ups. It had its own little box of mini staples and made a satisfying chunk sound when you used it. Over time, schools started discouraging students from bringing their own tools. But if you had a Tot Stapler, you were ahead of the game. Multiplication flashcards. Long before learning apps and digital games, there were flashcards. Thick cardstock with numbers on one side and answers on the back. Parents drilled kids with them in the evenings, and teachers kept stacks in every classroom drawer. They were simple, reliable, and they worked, though they did lead to sweaty palms and nervous reciting. Now they're more of a homeschool tool that every 70s kid remembers flipping through that stack over and over. Book covers made from paper bags. Before the days of stretchy fabric covers or stickered sleeves, we used what we had, brown grocery bags. Kids folded, taped, and decorated their own book covers by hand. You draw your name in bubble letters or doodle cartoons during math class. It was thrifty, creative, and a kind of rite of passage. Eventually, store-bought covers took over, but the homemade ones had a charm that's hard to beat. School in the 70s wasn't all about the grades, it was about the gear. These supplies weren't just tools, they were companions for the journey from summer to summer, page to page, year to year. Which one do you remember the most? Let us know in the comments, and if this brought back some memories, give us a like and subscribe.